creating cosmos out of chaos.
So, how was Bali? You just got back recently, right?
Yeah. I just got back. I landed in LA maybe 2 weeks ago and then was there for 10 days and then just got here. So yeah, it was so beautiful. 2 months of diving in so deep within myself. I mean, a lot of people that go to Bali, I think they go there to like heal or to have quiet or silence.
Like Julia Roberts.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Oh my God. I felt like I was having a total Julia Roberts moment. I really did.
Did you find
The Frenchman?
No, not the Frenchman. Who she found in Ubud?
Oh.
No, I actually met a Balinese man.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, which was so beautiful because I was hanging out there and going to a lot of like the California parties and stuff.
The California.
California
it's like
parties in
Ubud. You know, they've got the ecstatic dance and all the yoga. And
Like
it's
at the
all
yoga
the
bar?
expats, right?
Yeah.
And I was going there and there's a man that was taking care of my villa. And I started researching all of Ubud. I was falling in love with it. So Ubud comes from the word Ubad, which means medicine. And I was researching all of the history of Ubud, which is like it comes from deep medicine work, medicine people, and there's a real holy lineage there. So I was really diving into it. And this man who was like taking care of my villa was really helping me learn about it and everything. And then on my birthday, on October 22nd in Bali, they have Saraswati Day. And it's like praising to Saraswati, you know, the goddess of the arts.
Yeah.
And I had just been given a Saraswati statue like 5 days before. Someone had gifted me one. I had her on my altar. And then this man says, oh, Saraswati Day is on your birthday.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's like everyone in the village is taking the day off and they're going to the temple to pray to Saraswati.
Oh
Do you
my
want to go on your birthday?
Everyone takes a day off on your birthday.
Yeah,
That's
to
amazing.
pray to this goddess that was on my altar. I was
Wow.
like, this is so meant to be. And so he takes me to this amazing water temple and I did this really deep purification. He became like my spiritual friend in this vortex. He introduced me to the culture there. I stopped doing all of like the expat stuff and just dived right into the culture. He was teaching me how to do all the prayer offerings and
Was it the Seven Fountain Water Temple?
there was, I don't know if it was seven
Did you go
fountains.
through all the fountains?
Yeah,
And, like-
all the fountains.
And you had to do a specific like.
Yeah,
Is it 3 times?
Yeah,
Was it?
exactly.
Yeah.
And then he
That's
took me to all these other water temples as well. And I just became obsessed with all the water ceremonies.
That's
and,
incredible. We did that when we were there. When
very
we
first-
first left Canada,
okay.
like left it all behind, and we ended up in Ubud, and we
Yeah.
were
In
like,
Ubud. Yeah,
It's
we
very
took
cleansing.
yeah, and we went
took
right.
our little motorbikes and we found. I mean, I don't know if there's many water
There's
temples
prob-
or
yeah,
if there's
sounds
like
like there
one.
is,
Oh,
right?
no,
specific-
there's water temples everywhere,
okay.
Yeah,
all over
okay.
the island.
Wow.
So next time I go back, I'm actually going to go on a water temple tour and just go to all the water temples because it's like you go in, and I know that you've experienced it. It's so purifying. For thousands of years, I've been going to these temples and praying, and you feel it.
the cleansing and like I don't know what like the feel like the it's just
Well,
like
it's
this
the
feeling
idea
when we
with
left.
water,
Yes.
right?
Like after
Yes.
like getting out of the fountain and doing all of the stations and going through it all and being open to it.
Yeah.
Like and being really like
Yes.
being like I'm going to completely surrender to this process that people have been doing
Yes.
for thousands of years.
Yes.
And
You feel very purified.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
That was one of my like most beautiful days I think ever.
Beautiful.
Almost. That's so crazy that that's what you're doing.
But I love what you're saying about like just this culture of Balinese culture, because that's the one thing I miss a lot. Even actually like when living in Costa Rica and all these other beautiful places with their own amazing energies. But I always like sometimes compare it to like that experience.
You always
that
do,
we had
actually.
in
Yeah.
Ubud, and I
Yeah.
was like saying how like there's just something about like you're walking down the street. And you look, and there's these beautiful statues or arts, and then
And
there's an
offerings
offering
and
on the ground
Yes.
everywhere,
Everywhere.
and it just like forces you to pause and be
Yeah.
like, oh wow, there's an offering
Yeah.
to like a higher being, and
Absolutely.
a higher energy, like
Yeah, they're so connected to their
Yes.
spiritual path. That was the most inspiring thing for me. Just looking everywhere, always offerings. Like they're doing ceremony every other day. They're praying to something. Their calendar is so intricate. And it's an undisturbed lineage for like thousands upon thousands of years. Like the conquerors never were able to get into Bali. And I think it's because the spiritual power of that land was so strong.
wow.
Yeah.
That's That's so interesting.
How long did you spend like in Ubud? Was it in Ubud or did you travel a little bit?
I went out and traveled, but I just kept coming back to Ubud.
Really?
I was there for 2 months. Yeah.
That's so interesting because everyone's like, oh, you've been to Bali. Where have you been? And we're always like, Ubud. Like, because we never want to leave.
We
go there.
traveled.
I know it's a
little
vortex.
bit.
Yeah. We went to like
totally.
the Gili Islands.
Okay, yeah.
And like
We looked a little bit.
we
but
went
always
down
went
to
back.
like what was that, La Bombajo.
Okay.
And like a few, like we kind of did a little island hopping.
Nice,
but
beautiful.
like ended up packing a boot.
I mean, Ubud is totally different than the rest of the island as well. I feel.
We went to Denpasar once when our camera broke, and that was terrible.
And that was like good enough to go back
Yeah,
after.
we're like,
We're like,
let's go
okay.
God.
How have you found Ubud like since COVID and everything? Like, do you find that now it's booming again, or?
It is definitely. I wasn't there like during the height of COVID, but I spoke to a lot of people, and I think one of the things that was most disturbing for the community there, mainly the Hindu people, was not so much like, okay, tourism had stopped, but they were actually not allowed to pray together at the temples.
Oh my God.
And that is like a huge part of their lineage, coming together pretty much every day in community, praying together. And that was, I think, one of the hardest things, that they were not allowed to gather at their temples. And then the expats that were there, a lot of people went home, and the people that stayed there said it was like being on heaven on earth, because everything was less expensive. You could stay in the most beautiful places, and you could travel all over the island, go to temples all by yourself. There were no tourists around. So people really got to experience like this newness that probably it was like many, many years ago. Yeah.
Probably during like the Julia Roberts time. You're saying, right?
Ubud's funny though. Bali's so interesting because I remember when I was a teenager, like in the 90s, like a friend of mine ended up in Bali.
Oh,
and I was
really?
like, it's before the internet.
Okay.
No one knew anything.
Interesting.
And all they said was like, I lived in a hut in Bali for $6 a day.
Yeah.
Mushrooms were legal, so I'd eat mushrooms all the time, and food was like a paradise. And
Oh my
like,
God, the food.
oh my God, and the food is. But I
Yeah.
just imagine, and back then I became obsessed, and I had no idea. Like, I was just like, I wrote songs about Bali. I was like, like when I was like a
Before
teenager.
you even went?
Yeah, no, before anything, I was like, I'm gonna live there in a hut for $6 a day and eat mushrooms and have great food, and that's gonna be my life. Like, and I was always on one hand, like between everything I always did, I was like, well, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to just follow that dream to Bali.
Beautiful.
And then one day, actually, we ended up going to Bali, but it was 20 years later.
We did
after
not
that
stay
fact.
in a $6
And I think
hut,
it's
though.
changed a
And we
lot
didn't eat
since the
mushrooms.
90s. No, we didn't eat mushrooms, no.
No, we did not eat
It was
mushrooms.
more of a teenage thing for me, the whole mushroom thing.
Wow.
But no, it's funny. It's so crazy that it's like how far and how much things change,
Yeah.
right? Like even just like in the 5 years between the two times we went there, we were like, oh, it's busy there now. And the last time we were there was like
It was actually getting a little
2019,
bit.
I think.
Yeah, no, 18. It was 2018, and it was like almost to a point where it was like, this is getting really busy. Like
It is
traffic,
busy.
like you
traffic is
couldn't-
crazy there.
Yeah,
Do you do the moto thing?
Yeah.
See, the moto thing makes it a little easier.
Being in a car does not
Oh my
work.
God, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
That's where I think I learned, like, and Juliana learned, like, how to hold on and just be like, if there was like a little dirt thing on the side around, like you're just like zooming in and out. Like we
It's
really
really
learned.
fun.
Yeah,
It
it's a
is.
lot of
Yeah,
fun.
yeah,
It's
I
a
like
lot
it.
of fun.
If you have the courage, it
Yeah.
can be super fun, just zipping around.
Oh, totally, right?
And going down the rice paddy fields, like with so much green all
That's-
around you, those little streets.
It's like truly like a movie.
Yeah,
like
it really
when you're
is.
Just like you're like you're with
I
Julia
feel like it's a totally
Roberts,
different dimension
and
you enter into.
Totally,
Yeah.
and you go to rice fields. It's just like you've never being from where we are. Like the idea of even being in a space like that.
Yeah.
It's just like you look around and you're on your little motorbike and you're just like it's actually kind of like heaven on earth. It's funny.
Yeah,
they
it
said
really
that.
is. Yeah.
That's so
yeah.
cool.
It's very abundant.
Very-
Like just
it is.
fruit trees growing
the
everywhere.
food there is amazing.
Yeah.
So where do you like going in Ubud? Where's your favorite places?
To eat or to
whatever, yeah,
oh,
I
I
don't know.
mean, there's just so many amazing restaurants
course,
there.
right?
My God, I would spend a lot of time at a cafe called Zest.
Okay.
And it's like up on the kind of mountain area, overlooking like all of the jungle on the side of the town, and they have the most amazing vegan food, like really awesome menu.
Yeah.
And you can take your computer there and work there and eat. And so I spend a lot of days there when I'm working.
That's cool.
But a lot of people go to Yoga Barn. They have amazing ecstatic
we
dance.
spent a lot of time at Yoga
Did you
Barn.
go to Yoga Barn a lot?
Yeah, I did. At the start I did, but then I kind of pulled away from all of that and just started hanging out with the Balinese people and doing their things.
Which is amazing. I mean, talk about a complete cultural immersion for you, right?
Yeah,
to
totally.
have that experience.
Yeah.
Like, that's incredible.
I felt like it was like such a transmission for kindness for me, and to just really see people that are so devoted to kindness and unconditional love and genuine care. It was like a whole nother level that I'd never seen before. Yeah, so I just wanted more of it. Just hanging out with them was so inspiring.
Do you find that, what do you think about the expat portion of it? Do you think that it's being so separated from the actual culture? Do you think that it's missing something?
I do, actually. Yeah, I think it's a really groovy scene to go to and hang out in, and there's like amazing food and awesome yoga and retreats. And I do feel like there could be more of a connection with the culture. And I think a lot of expats that go there, they do feel a little bit separated from the culture, because you have to kind of humbly ask your way in. You can't just like go into a temple when there's a big ceremony happening. You actually have to have someone take you in there, which means that you do need to connect with the locals, and you have to like be humble in that approach. There are traditions that you can go and watch that are more theatrical and things like that, which are amazing to go and see. But yeah, I feel like it's just so groovy there that maybe a lot of people aren't even thinking about that, and there's a lot to learn about it. Yeah,
it's interesting, eh? I find it's like another extension, and we talk about it a lot, but like this sort of spirituality as a fad. I think when you get caught up in the fad of it, sometimes you miss the depth that's also there too.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And to go to a place like Bali, like it's such a there's such an energy there.
Yeah,
like,
it's right there.
There's only a few places on earth that like, and I think that's why these communities end up building themselves inside of them, because it's like you show up there and it's like there's just like this feeling in you, and you like, and it's coming out of the people, and it's coming out of the like the history and everything about it. And then you go and you set up your own little thing.
Exactly. It's like missing the point.
Yeah, you can miss that a little bit. It's funny.
Yeah,
it's
so nourishing to actually allow yourself to be touched by the culture. And I even feel that in Mexico and other places where the ancient lineage is still alive, how much we can really learn from the culture and the people if we pursue that.
Right.
Yeah.
So after Bali, you said you went back to the States for 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Total wrap up of my life from
Really?
being in a 10-year relationship, as you know, with Ganar.
Yeah.
And that was the closing chapter, like packing everything in boxes. Myself and Ganar had a really beautiful, he's in Costa Rica right now. We had a really beautiful closing ceremony together.
You guys
on the
had it
phone.
together.
We had one in Portugal at the start of the year. And then we were in our final wrap-up stage of all the pieces. And so I was back at the house that we built together. And and then we just had a really beautiful final letting go.
What was this closing ceremony like? Like, I've never heard of this before. It's really beautiful.
Oh, okay. Well, the one that we did in Portugal was really beautiful. We spent 5 days together. And we had been apart for like a year, and deciding if it was a right fit to continue like our relationship. And it became clear over a year that we really love each other so deeply and care so deeply, and we'll always be in each other's lives, but we really just want different things. And so when we got together in Portugal for 5 days, it was so sweet, because we were just so ready to love each other, even though we knew we were letting go. And every day, so one of the practices that I developed when I was here in Mexico, talking about like the cultural lineages and stuff, I started working with hape, which is the tobacco that you blow. Do you know, are you familiar with hape?
Actually, no.
So it's a medicine that some of the indigenous work with, which is you blow, it's a tobacco up your nose.
Like rapé?
Yeah, rapé.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Some people go rapé, some people go hape.
Okay. We've heard of rapé,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Yeah,
Some people in the West call it hape because if you write it down, it's like rape, right? So they pronounce it hape in the West, but actually it's also rapé.
Okay.
So I developed a practice with that, and I introduced that to Ganar, and we actually every day we would do a ceremony together in the morning and set an intention for what we wanted to clear and what we wanted to heal. And it was so powerful because we would sit together for an hour every day and just so organically unfold whatever needed to be processed and healed, and was held in so much love.
Wow.
And I think a lot of it was because that medicine connects you really to your spirit, and connects you to like the pure infinite light that you are, versus all the stories, because sometimes we get inside these stories of what I'm not getting, or what you're not getting, or what happened or what didn't happen, and that's like the mind and all of its loops. And so we were going into these places within ourselves which was very clear and meditative, and then we would share from those places, and it was just very healing for both of us. So we did that every day together, and then I came back, and then we were still in some of the final pieces, because 10 years together.
It's a long time.
Yeah, just wrapping everything up. And and then he went away, and I came back to the house, packed up all my stuff, and then, had our final closing this past weekend, actually, before I left.
And what was that final closing for you?
For me, it was, let's tune into that. And this was something that came through for me in Bali, which was the total importance of gratitude, and really coming into a place of gratitude and letting go, because we built so much together, we created so much together. And I think a lot of people that maybe even go through divorce and things like that, there's like a grasping of you owe me this, or we did this together, you owe me. And I felt like some of that coming up in my field before I went to Bali, and I was like, that doesn't feel good inside me. And I did a lot of work, and the kindness that I saw in Bali, and the deep detachment of needing anything to be happy really shifted inside of me. And I realized within myself that like the most important thing is our love. Right. And I came into such a deep place of gratitude inside of myself, which transcended any objects that we got together, anything that we built together. Right. And we connected on the phone, and I feel like he had also been doing that work, and it's just amazing what gratitude creates as well. Like when you enter into a conversation from a space of gratitude, how much generosity actually comes out of it as well. And so we were able to like really be generous with each other, and not from a place of like, I need you to do this for me, or you owe this to me, but from a place of like true generosity, because we love each other.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, so that was the journey. And I realized it could have totally gone a different way as well, because like if I'm not in a space of gratitude, then I'm showing up differently, and then that affects him or anyone differently, and then the dynamic that's created is lack versus like just. And the gratitude really is about like knowing more than anything that you are so whole and so complete and so connected to so many blessings that then becomes an overflow to everyone in your life. So having that experience with him was really beautiful, and I feel really grateful now to let that go and to keep moving.
Do you feel like you finally like have the sense of closure, like in your heart?
Thank you for that question. I have to tune into that. So I feel that we will always be family. And I think some of like the traditional world is like, oh, you let go and you're done, right? Or, we were together and now we're not, and I don't know that person. I feel like he will always be a fabric in my life, and I will always love him, and I will always support him, and I will always show up for him no matter what he needs. And I will always pray for him as well. I found myself in Bali just sending so many prayers to him because I feel him so deeply still. So on that level, we're soulmates for life. And then on the relationship level, yes, I have completion and I have full recognition that was a beautiful chapter. It served what it needed to serve for both of us, and now we're free to continue.
That's so incredible. I think that to hear such a human and compassionate and aware and conscious handling of something that has so many messy emotions, because being human, like you're saying, if the gratitude leaves, it leaves space for all of this other noisy complication of ego,
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
to come in
yeah,
and to scarcity and feeling in lack and feeling like there's so many places it can go.
Yeah.
But to hold that space, like it's so
Yeah.
admirable and inspiring. And I think that, like, how is there anything like, because everyone goes like we all go through loss,
Yeah.
we all go through breakups,
Yeah.
not even just breakups in relationships,
Yeah.
but like I find it's a really interesting thing in life that everything we engage in, especially
Yeah.
in a human to human relationship, it's like her tattoo we were talking about,
Yeah.
impermanence.
Yeah.
It has a start and it has a beginning, no matter what.
Yeah.
And if you can hold the end in a place that honors the journey itself,
Yeah.
then you can always look back upon the journey the way that you're speaking to, like
Yeah.
with gratitude for
Yeah.
being able to do that.
Gratitude,
Because I've
yeah.
had so many relationships in my life that have broken off, and I look back at it, and because it didn't end well, you're stuck with all this noise, and you look back at it, and it takes away the beauty of the journey through it.
Yeah, yeah,
So then you don't look at all the things you did the same. You're like, well, you did this and you owed me this and I did this and oh my God, he always did this. And it turns into this whole narrative, right? Like we've all fucking been there, and it's just like, it's insane. But I find that when you can get through that that closing point, or even after once it's closed in the hard way, you find that closure to be like, yeah, maybe it was messy, but maybe we did manage to close it off in a
Yeah.
beautiful way.
Yeah.
But it honors and cherishes that time that you had, whether it was a night, someone you just met one night and that was it, or whether it was 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because some of the most important relationships in my life, I don't talk to them anymore. And I've had to do really, really deep work to find that place to be like, no, I forgive them for all that, the messiness at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm embarrassed about some of the things I did, but I forgive myself too.
Good.
And then you
good.
can look. Then I can look back at the things I did with them, and even if they don't look at them the same way, that's okay.
Yeah.
But I can look back at all those adventures and all those times and
Yeah.
all that stuff we created and everything,
Yeah.
and be like, that was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And you can celebrate it. And so I can't figure out what the way to manage the actual closure is, because I've had to actually figure out how to come to peace with my states of closure after the fact. So looking back on the turbulent end and trying to find peace with that, so I can find peace with the rest of the relationship before.
Yeah.
But this is the first time I've
Yeah.
ever heard anyone responsibly as two people go through
think
something this
that's so beautiful
severe.
that the two of you are able to do that.
So-
And I'm sure a lot of people that are listening and watching this right now, like Mark was saying, we've all experienced, whether it's in romantic relationship or friendships, like there has been breakups where
Yeah.
a
So-
relationship has ended.
So
But
let me just ask my question though.
Okay, go ahead.
I love you guys.
No, but seriously,
Well, I have a
I know,
He
but
wants to end his question in a peaceful way.
I just want to know, like, what could you say to people to help them find
Yeah.
the space that you found with Gunnar? Because that's like, that's amazing. Like, what can you say to me?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
I think some people may not realize it, but some people think they need it to be turbulent to let it go. Now I have a reason to let it go, when in actual fact it's just time to let go. And if you are able to come to a place of it's just time to let go, and I freaking love you so much, that's harder sometimes than like, oh, now I have an excuse to let
Right.
go.
that's right.
So I think sometimes we find reasons for why it's not working when actually it's just time. And I think we've been taught a model that like it's like when you find your person, it is supposed to be till death do you part, and that is not for everyone. You know, some people come into your life for a chapter to give you a piece of wisdom and for you to exchange. And sometimes that karmic contract is complete. And it doesn't mean just because the karmic contract is complete that love is lost.
Right.
But I think because of that old model in our mind, like, oh, the karmic contract's over, therefore there must be something wrong, therefore I'm going to look for something wrong and make an excuse. Actually, we can just enter into a deep place of clarity and be like, oh, like, thank you so much for everything, and we're moving in new directions now. Yeah.
That's really, really beautiful.
But that is painful as well, because you love the person,
Well, it's the
right?
hard- it's
Yeah.
the admitting that it's time. And I
Yeah.
understand that, because many people self-sabotage and find the reason to
Yeah.
make an issue.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
Well,
then
because
it becomes
it's a lot easier to let go and to leave when you're like, oh, well, this person did this and this and this, so now I have a reason, rather
Yeah.
than like you're saying,
To come to the
actually
place
come
of
into the
understanding.
deeper place of understanding, like, well, this already isn't fitting anymore.
Yeah.
You know, your path in
Yeah.
your life. But is there, like you mentioned, which is so beautiful that you have like ways of like a ceremony, you call it, right? Like certain ways that you've actually like a tool that you've used to help yourself kind of close this door in this chapter. And I'm just curious for people that maybe can't do that with a partner, or because sometimes in relationship breakups, the other partner isn't open to that, or you know what I mean? Is there something that you think people can do on their own?
Oh my God, absolutely. I literally, I did a closing ceremony by myself as well. I actually posted it on my IG wall yesterday because I filmed it. It was a step-by process that I did because I love doing ceremony for anything, you know, like if there's an opportunity ceremony, I'm in. So of course I did a ceremony with myself, and I did it with the fire. And actually one of the things I love about Mexico is I feel there's like a lot of fire ceremony here, and I knew I was coming back to Mexico. So I did a fire ceremony, and basically I wrote down all the things that I was grateful for. And then I offered it to the fire, and I did some tapping and to let go of any like final holding on, because sometimes it's like you have all these what ifs, and I knew that even though I was like going through letting go with him, I had some what ifs in my mind still, like what if I showed up differently? What if I was more patient? Or what if we approached that differently? Or what if, you know, so there were some what ifs, and they were the hard parts, the final parts that I need to let go of to be complete. And so I wrote the what ifs, I wrote my gratitudes, and then I offered it to the fire, and then I did some tapping while I watched it burn, and then I did some meditation with it, and then I sent so much gratitude into all of the gifts that we've learned together, and really sat with like all of the blessings and processed all of the blessings and all of the love, and then just sent all of my love back to him. And I did this with the fire, and I feel like the fire is such a beautiful ancient technology, right? Because you know, you can turn something that's physical into the ether. And I feel like the ether is what listens. The ether is where, you know, our ancestors are living. It's where the spirit dimension lives. And so when we commune with the fire and we put things in the fire, we let them absorb into the ether. And so I send my prayers into the ether, and I called in all of my ancestors, and I've been working with my ancestors a lot, especially in ceremony. It's amazing, like what has been showing up on the ancestral planes.
Wow.
But I called them all in for support as well, because we have so many guides that always want to help. And so when you're doing ceremony, you call in your guides, you call in your ancestors to support your intentions, and then you bring that into the etheric realms with them. It just like enhances the power. And so I did that with them, and I felt very clear. It was actually, that was the final piece that I needed for myself to close. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow. That's a beautiful ceremony.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can do that. Anyone can do that anywhere, right? Like,
Yeah,
you can
absolutely.
just find that space.
Yeah.
And
Gratitude's such an interesting thing. I heard once, like, when you're filled with gratitude, there's actually no room for any other emotion.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's the holding of space that does not allow anything of that is negative into the space.
Yes, yes.
And you can then truly,
Yes.
like, truly appreciate. And it's funny, like, I actually was writing in my journal this morning a lot about gratitude.
Yeah.
And through, like, even in the hard times.
Yes.
And we're pretty burnt out at this point, and we've been working for like
Oh my
been on the road
gosh.
for 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And you know, over the last little couple of weeks, it hasn't been as easy. Like, there's been much more resistance in everything we do, because it's just, we're exhausted. And you know, in one hand, you can focus on this exhaustion and focus on the negativity and let that be that which defines the time we're in. But I really want to focus, and I worked really hard today on just being like, if I'm grateful, even for the strife, and even for the turbulence, and even for the exhaustion, then I can look at that time with a deep appreciation and a respect. And through that process of just like constantly coming back to gratitude, even when negative, you can push away all of that negative, all of the negative energy, and be filled with the light. Even if it's exhausted light, you can still be filled with the light that allows you to look at things and be like, holy shit, look at this amazing experience we're having.
Yes.
I'm fucking exhausted.
Yes.
And I'm at the end of my rope and my tank is
Yes.
empty and I'm emotionally and all the things, but I'm so grateful for all that too.
Yeah, beautiful.
Because it's duality.
Yeah.
I can look at it and say it's bad, or I can look at it and say it's good.
Yeah.
It just is what it
Yes,
is, and we have the
exactly.
choice to define it. And I think
Yeah.
it's a fascinating thing. So to hear gratitude used on that kind of level in that sort of ceremony practice, like, I think that's so special.
I love gratitude. I love gratitude. It's actually been like a big part of my practice.
Yeah.
Today I was even meditating and integrating into Mexico. I just brought my dog with me, and I've been so used to being free and not having any responsibility, and now I have this dog. I'm like, oh my God, I brought my dog to Mexico. I'm like, my dog wants me 24/7 around, and I want to go see friends. And I was like noticing a lack of gratitude around, like, I feel like I'm being held hostage by my dog.
Oh my goodness.
And so, I was meditating, and as I was meditating, like this song came on, and it was this song that I used to listen to when I was in my free place without my dog. And it was like reminding me of my freedom, and I was like, but I have my dog. And then in that moment, I remembered when I would meditate with that song, and when I would meditate in that song, I was also meditating on something that I was processing as well.
Right.
And I was like, at what point in the timeline do you actually just say, wow, it's all a blessing? And so it like really brought me to the present moment, and then it helped me just realize, like, where is our focus? Is it like the one thing that is the dog, or is it like all of these amazing blessings that are around us all the time? The beautiful home, amazing healthy food, friends, nature. It's just like, where is our focus?
And it's interesting how our mind always focuses on the negative, right? Like you kind of forget of the simplicity of our life that you're saying that we should be grateful for, like the fact that we're healthy, the fact that we're like, we have energy, and that we have nothing wrong with us, like that we have food that we can put on our table and it's healthy and
we can
it's
sit
clean.
there
You know what I
for-
mean? Like there's, if you start to actually look at all the little things in your life and find gratitude for them, like it's crazy how it starts to shift your perspective of your entire life. Because we forget. We focus on what we don't have. We focus on the issues and the problem and the things that are disturbing our flow or what we're used to. But, and it's interesting you say about your dog, because I find that, like, I bet you now that you have this different being now with you to be responsible for it. She or he?
What's his name?
Little Bear.
Little Bear.
Not just bear.
Little Bear,
Little Bear.
is going to actually bring you so many other experiences to be grateful for.
Yeah, you know what's very interesting that you say that? So I was looking, I put it out there yesterday. I was like, I need a dog sitter. So my landlord connects me to the cleaner's daughter, who happens to work at a vet. She comes over yesterday, and I realized that Little Bear was my introduction to, like, connecting to the culture more, because, like, she doesn't really speak English, and so we're doing a lot of translation together. And that's actually what I want to, like, connect to the real culture of Mexico. And, like, now I have this new family because her and her mom are going to help take care of the dog.
That's
and we're
amazing.
like creating this new relationship, which I wouldn't have had before.
Right.
So yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's so amazing.
So is Little Bear with her right now?
No, Little
Wait.
Bear is with one of my girlfriends right now.
I wish
Yeah.
Little Bear was here.
I know.
Actually, you
I
could have
nearly
brought him here. It's dog friendly here.
Really?
Plantisa is pet friendly.
Okay.
Next
Plantisa,
time.
the whole
I mean,
place is-
Plantisa, sorry. Palmaya. What's
Yeah.
the keyword? Palmaya.
I think he would love it here.
He would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw someone walking their dog last night.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
sweet.
and I was like, oh yeah, it's pet friendly
It's
here.
pet friendly here.
It's so sweet,
I
actually.
love it.
So you've now officially are settling your roots in Tulum.
At least for 6 months. I've
6
like,
months.
yeah, which is a lot for me.
Yeah, no, we understand that.
Yeah, in the past year and a half, maybe close to 2 years, I think the longest I've stayed in a place is 2 months.
Wow.
Same as us.
Yeah,
That's
okay, there you
crazy,
go,
actually.
There you go. So it feels like a big commitment, but I'm ready for it. And clearly I called it in if I'm bringing my dog here.
Yeah.
And
Why Tulum? Like, is there something very specific about? Because I mean, for some people, we love Tulum, but
Yeah.
there's definitely pockets of it when
Yeah.
you're like, oh my God, this
Yeah.
is really crazy
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
what is
So
it? for
I
you?
think there's two things that are like the most that stand out. One is the community that's here. There's, I feel the spiritual community and all the practices, and there's lots of fun things to do all the time. If I can get a dog sitter. And then I would say the cultural lineage of the Mayan people, especially in the Yucatan, I've found just it's really lit me up, learning a lot of the traditions here, a lot of the fire ceremonies, the temazcals. I also joined, it's called a moon dance, which I think you probably have heard of it, where it's a traditional moon dance where around 250 women come together with the grandmothers, and we fast for 5 days and we dance under the moonlight, and it's a really deep spiritual journey. And I did my first one last year, and it's based out of Tulum and Playa del Carmen.
Really?
So there's just a lot for me to tap into there.
Where do you do that?
So this particular one happens out in Bacalar.
Okay.
Yeah, you all camp out, and they make these really beautiful, like it's a big area that's in a circle, and then they have like a central big massive drum, and then every night you basically you do a temazcal, which is like a sweat lodge at the start, and then you come out at night under the moonlight. It's full moon, and you have different leaders. Everyone's wearing like traditional garments, and you've got rattles on your ankles and rattles in your hands, and they lead you through these sacred geometric shapes where you're all dancing and rattling together. And before you do that, you plant your prayers on each direction. So each direction represents a different prayer. Right. So every night you pray for that, and it's really quite amazing because you go into a dream state because you're up all night, you're fasting.
And you're fasting.
Like no food.
Yeah, no food. Just water and a little bit of honey.
Wow.
Yeah,
for
honey.
5 days.
Yeah. And then you're praying for your prayers, and then you start to go into this dream state. This is my experience of it anyway. You go into a dream state, and so everything that you're praying for and rattling starts to come out into the subconscious, and like you start processing in the dream world. You know, when you're dreaming, symbols and stuff start to happen. So my experience was like a lot of symbols were coming, and then you're shaking. And so the sound, like in sound healing, like when certain sounds hit the energetic field, it either clears it out, it harmonizes it. So there's like 250 women all shaking.
Wow. Holy shit.
And then you're like kind of in between states. All this stuff's coming out into your field related to your prayers, and then it's getting shaked out of the energy field. And so you're clearing stuff, and then you're bringing in your prayers with the moonlight, and the moonlight is so powerful and so bright. It's just like, wow. It's a really beautiful spiritual tradition. Yeah.
How did you feel at the end of it?
I felt really connected to the earth and really grounded in my body. Wow. Yeah, really present and grounded and strong.
What do you do when you leave?
When you leave.
Like, how do you start integrating back
into society?
Yeah.
Like, you just go to Subway, grab a sandwich. What are you supposed to do next?
I actually took 3 days in silence.
Yeah, see, this is what I would expect.
Yeah, totally. And I got a nice little place. In Bacalar, there's these beautiful cenotes with the most amazing clear water. So I went and stayed for 3 days by myself and just wrote in my journal and just allowed myself to integrate the whole experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've heard of these moon dances from other friends before in Costa Rica, and it's incredible of how you describe it, because they always say like, it's like these like really sacred experiences and events, but you can come if you're invited. Yeah. Right? Like it's not
like Fight Club. It's like Fight Club. Right?
But you have to have like another woman invite you in, right?
Yes.
And so to me, I was like, oh my gosh, one day I will
maybe we'll go together.
Love to experience that.
But it's women only, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But do the men support the experience? Do they help?
What if I identify as a woman?
Oh, you can do the sun dance.
Could I identify as a woman just for the weekend?
Oh, that is an interesting question. Yeah, I can't answer that one.
What's a Sundance is a similar one.
The
but for
Sundance
men?
is for the men,
Really?
which is also an ancient tradition where the men will all gather and do something very similar. I don't know all of the traditions that they do inside those, but that's like the masculine side of it.
That's really
that's for you. You will love it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I like the moon dance one. I want to come to that.
Yeah.
Well, you can't.
They do have men that take care of the fire. So there's a big fire that runs all throughout the experience, and they tend to the fire and they hold a protective field for the women.
That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Wow.
That's really beautiful.
So maybe
My
you
God.
can come and do that.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah, you're invited.
While we dance under the moonlight for 5 days,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
I just think it's such a beautiful way, like you're saying, to integrate to the earth and
Yeah,
like
it's
to
amazing.
like remember like this like rawness within us, right? And to be surrounded by women and like that energy as well, I can only imagine is so powerful, right? Like, and the moon, so it's like the whole feminine, you know, it's like frequency that is happening at that point. Oh my gosh, that's
there's a
magical.
real power in the temescals. So everyone is in the temescals. They bring in these hot stones and they put herbs and water, and there's steam coming out, and then there's a drum, and women are singing different traditional chants in there. And I am so blown away by the Mexican women because it's mainly Mexican women doing it. It's not like a lot of expats. Like maybe it's 10%.
really,
Yeah.
wow.
So you're really there, and it's all in Spanish. Occasionally you get a translator who will sit next to you, and my Spanish wasn't very good, and so I had a translator occasionally sit next to me, and like the few little nuggets that I got was so powerful because the grandmothers will sit in there and they'll share their wisdom around different topics and things like that, and then everyone sings. And just the power of the Mexican women I hadn't experienced before on that level. Like they're so connected to the earth, and you can really feel that strength coming through them when they sing.
How many, like, how long are you in the Temescals for? How many doors do you go through?
Yeah, so it's one in the morning, and then one in the evening, and then I think there's like five times they bring in the rocks.
So five doors.
5 doors, yeah.
Wow. So it's pretty long.
Yeah, it is, yeah. But I love them for some. Maybe it's my body type. I'm a Vata.
I love
like
them
the
too.
heat.
Actually, I love the. We did a Temescal here a couple weeks
Okay,
ago, and
beautiful.
it was wow.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's so
They can never be
beautiful.
hot enough or long enough. as
He
far as
wants it
I'm
hotter.
concerned.
Nice.
The first one I ever did was actually in Tulum, and a friend of ours, Fab, and I went, and it was like just the two of us. It was really interesting with these beautiful women, like these abuelas, just singing their hearts out in us. And I was processing through like the end. I guess it was probably the end chapter of like the grief of we lost our dog Prince.
Yes.
And it was a really, really intense experience spiritually for me. But by the fourth or fifth door, like 3 or 4 hours in, like I remember like lying on the floor, like my heart was pounding. I was like, I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Oh my God.
But I got to this point where I was like, so be it. This is where it goes. Like I literally just, I don't know, like it's crazy to get to that point of just like exhaustion and sweating, and you're like, your heart is just pounding, and like tears are coming out, and it's pitch black. You can't see anything. And it's like, it's such an interesting, interesting is such an underplayed word. It's such like a,
it's such a powerful transformation. I find that
it's
you go through in these Temescals.
Yeah.
My
But-
very, like.
yeah, it was amazing. I stepped out of that door, and it was pouring rain all of a sudden.
That's so.
It was the and I just walked out, and I was just like couldn't see any, and then it's just like psh, like this Mexican rain coming down on me, and I was just like, it was honestly probably one of my like easily top, as cheesy as this sounds, spiritual experiences of my life.
Yeah.
Like just like who teed this up for me?
I
it makes
think
you believe.
The spirit dimension works with the rain. You know, they say a lot of the traditions, you know, you can call in the rains when you need rains for crops. And I see it happen. Like
Whoever
it's
wrote
happened
that
in my
in,
life
yeah,
too.
like, whoever wrote
like
that in,
rains
like,
at the perfect moment.
You're like,
yeah.
are you fucking kidding me?
Yes.
Like it's just like the best.
We'll talk about also like the experience with all the elements, right? Because you have like the fire, and then in Temescals usually like you're sitting on the dirt, so you're really grounded in the earth.
Lying face.
Yeah, and then you come out and you're
inside
like in the water element of just having the rain come out and wash all of the sweat and all of like this energy off of you. It's talk about like a powerful experience.
Yeah.
My first Temescal was actually in Costa Rica, and it was at this sound healing retreat that I went on, and they were like, okay, well, everyone's going to do Temazcal. There was like 20 people. And it wasn't like the beautiful Temazcals that they have here in Mexico, which is all out of clay and it's like a dome. It was more like a homemade. But
The
which
Costa
was
Rica
the
style
Costa
ones,
Rican one. But it was still beautiful.
Yeah.
But it had like, they made a little teepee and they put a ton of blankets over.
Yeah,
So it was
beautiful.
still
That's
dark.
traditional.
Yeah, it was
Actually, I think that's the original way.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then they make it fancy
They
now.
make
with
them
the-
fancy now for the tourists.
So we did, and because there's 20 people, and probably the Temazcal was the size of like this space that we're in, so you couldn't even sit cross-legged without hitting someone. You had to kind of sit like this with your knees up.
Yeah.
And the guy, it was a man that led the Temazcal, and he was like a powerful human being. Like he was very strong to a point where like a lot of people that were doing it, including myself, actually, it was my first time. They were like, well, what if we have to pee? Like, can we leave? And he's like, you cannot leave the Temazcal. And someone's like, well, what if I have to pee? And they were like, pee under yourself. He literally said that to someone, especially like coming from Canada and America. You're like, what? Did he just say that to me? Like, culturally, they're not prepared for it to be really in that experience. But it was so intense. Like, it was maybe 3 times as hot as our last one that we did. Like, because he kept
The
bringing
hotter, the
more and
better.
more rocks, more and more rocks, more and more rocks. And he was singing, and he was like putting all the prayers. And it was, because it was so pitch black.
Yeah.
You're totally like, obviously we all know, you had no eyesight.
Yes.
And I remember I started to go into this almost like hallucinatory experience. I was seeing things, I was seeing shapes, I was seeing colors, and all this processing and emotion started to come up. I remember there was moments and I was crying, and when you're singing, like, you feel the sense of safety, because 1, no one can see you, and 2, you can let the energy out, whether it's through song or just like a big exhale. And I remember there was just this one moment for me when it started to get really, really hot, like really intense. And there's like what you're saying, at moments you're like, I don't know if I can keep going through this. Like, this is becoming really, really, really hard. And there was a little thought in my mind that was like, maybe I should get out. Maybe I should ask to leave and be 2 people left, be one of those people that's like, I need to leave. And then I remember there's something deeper inside that was like, it felt like I tapped into this warrior inside of me, and it was like came out, and then I felt this power, and I just sat there and grounded in it and went through it. And it was a really beautiful experience of not just the cleansing, but it was the first time that like it kind of reconnected me with this strength that I didn't know I had.
Beautiful.
You know?
I feel like that point that both of you are sharing about, I feel like that is the moment of death, if you can embrace it. Because it's like you're having thoughts of like, am I going to survive? There's something I feel spiritually that we're also releasing in that moment, which it almost feels like, will I die energetically? Like, or will I survive? And I feel like if you can make it past that point, there's a surrender of whatever you're dying to within yourself. And that's the medicine, right? Can you allow the things that don't serve you to die?
Wow.
And so I feel that can be a spiritual component of what happens in the Temazcal.
So beautifully said.
Yeah,
and
that's
when you
amazing.
say that, the thing that came to me right now actually was, you're talking about death, and I'm thinking about birth. Because when you're giving birth, and I experienced it myself, they always say there's this moment where every woman feels, and it's right before the baby crowns. And it is, I can't do this anymore.
Whoa.
It's like every woman goes to that, either she's like, take me to the hospital, like the pain's too much, like I can't handle it. And it's like this shift. And then if you just stick through it and you pass that point of doubt, something transforms. And maybe that's like when they say your maiden part of you dies and the mother's born. It's like the mother's being born and then the baby comes. And I went through that space, because when Xavier was being born, I had that moment. I was like, oh, I can't take it anymore. The pain is too much. We're going to go to the hospital. I wasn't dilating enough, all of these things. And I transitioned through that moment of most intense pain and discomfort and doubt that I
That's interesting.
I didn't have the strength, but I dug in, and Xavier came like that. You know what I mean? But it's so interesting, like, to put that comparison, because you're talking about death and something that dies in the Temazcal, and something is being reborn, but it's also can be looked at in a time of birth, when we're bringing life into this world.
You burn it away and
something in there. And it's like, you look at it, there's an actual term, I forget what it's called, that they talk about like in midwifery and everywhere.
But you can't say that every woman. Maybe it's...
No, but there is
but that's a pretty bold statement to say. Every single woman who gives birth has this moment. Maybe
there, of course, sometimes I think with some women, when their birth is, they had to get a lot of pain medication or epidurals because for many different reasons. So of course that sensation isn't felt. So of course, but I think a lot of women that have a home birth or more of a naturally without anything.
Yeah, well, not even just because it's not, because again, we don't want to self-importantize the idea of home birth. Like, it's just like, I think it's like some people can go in the Tamascal and not have the experience we just said. Like,
for sure.
With the pain threshold that you're talking about not medicating as well, and letting your body go through something that is not medicated, and I was interesting to feel that moment that your body went through, like, because I don't know if all women or what, but for you specifically, when you went through that powerful portal where there was so much pain, and then out of that pain came life.
It's so crazy.
Did you feel like, because I often think with tapping, like when you tap into the pain, like you change by allowing yourself to feel the pain deeply. Do you feel like in that moment of intense pain, like something transformed inside of you as a being, in your DNA, inside your spirit? Did something shift?
I do believe so 100% for myself, speaking personally, because to me, actually, when I knew the baby was coming and I was still in that transitionary phase, and I had to sit, I was on this birthing stool, and like, I remember there was a feeling of, like you were saying, you're calling in that ancestral kind of energy. And to me, I started thinking about my ancestral lineage of like my mom and my grandmothers and all the women in my family that have gone through this. And it's almost like I was calling in their power.
Whoa.
And I remember in an intense way, I was like, Mark was holding me and I was like, like I had this insane like roar that I experienced, and I was pulling this energy in. Whoa. And then when the baby crowns, not to go too graphic, but that is the most painful, they call it like a ring of fire.
Yes.
That is the most painful moment.
Okay. How long does that moment last?
I would say maybe like 20 seconds. It's quick, but that was the most intense pain. And then, because that's the head, and then after the body, you don't feel anything after the body, but the head needs to come out. And when you're saying that the most intense amount of pain, that was for me. That was the most intense pain I've ever felt in my life for a very short amount of time. And getting that energy through, and then something completely shifted. I mean, right there, then you're having a baby brought to you, and now you're a mother, and you know what I mean?
You're a different human being.
And you are a different human being.
From that point forward.
I feel like a lot of mothers, one of my girlfriends just had a home birth, and she was talking about the ring of fire. But I noticed something very different in her when I saw her again. And there was clearly an energetic shift, and I don't know if it has to do with like that pronounced moment. Obviously becoming a mother is going to transform you, but energetically she's so much more rooted to the earth. And I think about the root chakra and the energetics, like everything's coming through the root chakra, right? And that's all about groundedness, safety, security, also protection, which comes through as a mama. Now you're a protector of your child. And I saw in her a massive shift in her, like protector mama bear energy, her groundedness. Like she's so much more connected to that root chakra now.
Well, I think I've seen it in Juliana from that moment forward, 100%. Like we both never been the same, but it's like I can't observe myself, but I observe you every day, and it was like a massive. And it's interesting you talk about the root chakra. I think it has you're right. I think there's a lot more of that like groundedness in everything we do now.
But also I think in just the way you live your life as well, right? Like right now I do feel this wanting and need for more grounding in my life, even just like finding a home and kind of like staying there for a little longer. Like before it was like we're bouncing around all the time with a backpack, you're super free and open, right?
We still haven't stayed anywhere longer than 2 months. So.
No, but we like we have a home in Costa Rica right now. Like we're just
you
like
have a base.
Yeah, like and there's like this greater need in like my heart to find something, because you have a child and because there's like this responsibility to take care now of another being. It's not just, you know, me finding experiences to grow myself. It's, yes, of course, that's always going to be there in terms of self-growth. It has to be because, you know, we're our own people as well. But now you have this little being that is needing you to take care of it and to help his experience, you know? So it's like there is something that shifts. And I think it's something shifts in your brain too. Because even like the way my mind works now, like more often than so, I catch myself being like, I'm always thinking of him and then whatever else I have to do. It's like, even when we're working and doing this, I'm always like, okay, I wonder if he's time for his nap. Okay, he's done his nap. You know what I mean? That's like something like in your brain. It's like, you can't help it. It's like this motherly, like,
do you ever
part
feel, I know that like mothers probably don't like to talk about this, but do you ever feel like it ever takes away your freedom? Like, it feels like you guys still travel and do your thing and you're able to navigate that. Do you ever feel like, oh, part of my freedom has been taken, or you were totally ready for that and it's okay?
I mean,
everything takes away your freedom.
It's different.
Everything. It's just different.
It's just different. It's kind of like you're saying with your dog, right? Like,
that's why I asked.
No,
like there is different ways. Like, okay, yeah, maybe there are some things that you can't go. Maybe you can't go to that event or that sound healing or that ecstatic dance that you wanted to go because everyone else is going, because you have another being to take care of. Like, sure, like that, things have shifted. We used to, of course, be more free to go anywhere we wanted to go at any time of the day. Now it's like, well, we need a nanny or, you know, someone to look after him if we want to do that. But but at the same time, because your priorities have shifted so much that there's no other place I want to be than with my child.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean? It's like, sure, those things are wonderful and to experience, but to be honest, I'd rather be at home playing with him than be in any event, or you know what I mean? Like,
to gain anything, you have to give something up in life, right? And to gain the value of having a child and to truly honor that, there's so much you have to give up. But it's a fair trade. And it's a trade that in anything in life, whenever, like, for us to grow Boho Beautiful, we had to give so much up. So all our weekends up, all our extra time, all our hours. And when we got a dog and we loved our dog, and Prince, we spent 9 years with him. And he was the greatest thing in our life. He took so much from us. But for what he took, he gave us exactly that back in a different format in return. And I think through the Prince aspect, maybe that got us ready for this, where whatever we give to Xavier, he's giving us 10 times more back.
Beautiful.
And so it's like,
beautiful.
Yeah, of course life's different, but I mean, that's life. Like, we can't be Peter Pan our whole life.
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? Like, we have to accept some responsibility, and through responsibility, you get purpose. And there's nothing more rewarding in the world than purpose. Like, a purposeless life is a very difficult life to feel great about. But a life with any kind of purpose, and the more purpose you can take on your shoulders, the more like driven we as a species can be, and the more like we can be grounded and strong and have identity, like true identity, not like some identity like, oh, I'm this, you know, like not the thing we put on an Instagram bio, like the actual identity of who am I, what am I made of, and what am I contributing to. And through that sense of responsibility, like, fuck yeah, your freedom. For sure we gave up a ton. But what's freedom? Now we're free to have a baby. And
you
live
also,
a life,
like,
and
you were ready. It feels like you were so ready in your beings to, like, you had completed a chapter as well, right? Like, you
we really
kind of
had.
got it out of your system and you were ready for a new chapter.
Yeah, but at the same time, we're not letting something like our child stop us from continuing to experience things. We're traveling all the time, and it's, you know, it's of course a little bit more complicated. Just like with a dog, you have to find help and times to support your child or your pet, right? But it doesn't mean that you have to give it up and you have to stop it completely.
Yeah, because a lot of people told us when you have a baby, oh, Boho Beautiful is going to change.
You're not going to travel
life's gonna be
anymore.
so different. You can't travel anymore, and this, and we're like, maybe.
Or
maybe I guess we're gonna find out. I don't know.
Way.
Like, but we're gonna not just accept your fear mongering at the gate. We're gonna have the baby and figure out how it works.
Beautiful.
Because I think like there's a lot of people that read that manual. What's that book called?
What to expect
What
when
to
you're
expect
expecting.
when you're expecting.
Okay.
Which was given to us by a few people, and as
We are not endorsing that book.
No, we're definitely not. In fact, we're burning it right here because it tells you that this is the way it has to be. But like having a baby is such a creative experience. You can do it however you want to do it. And you can incorporate the baby into your life to make your life that much more expansive.
Wow.
And like,
woo, woo.
I don't know. It's like having a dog. Like everyone told us when we got a dog, like, oh, now your life. It's like, hell
And
no.
you know,
like,
even even with our dog at that time, like he wasn't just any regular dog that you can take anywhere with you to the cafe. Like we had a very troubled dog who, you know, came from a very terrible background and had an issue with other people, especially in his space, to a point where he was dangerous. He was a Rottweiler, you know what I mean?
He was a very dangerous dog.
He was a very dangerous dog, actually. This is not even like a little chihuahua that you could hold, you know?
Oh my gosh.
And so for us, like even we had to make a lot of sacrifices in terms of like,
we couldn't take him anywhere. People couldn't come over to our house.
Like when people come over, there's like a whole thing. We had to go put him in the crate or put him in a different room, or even like sometimes during holidays when only my mom was actually able to, like he accepted my mom into the pack, but any other family member he tried to bite. Because he, for some reason, had this thing where it's like you're in his space. He needs to be a protector, and we've worked with trainers. We've tried so
every
much,
trainer
but
we
there was
talked to
just
said to put him down.
so much trauma in him from
because
his
he came from a
past.
dog fighting ring in Toronto.
Holy moly!
But he was a puppy, and he was gonna be integrated into the dog fighting ring. And then the gangster that owned him, was like, I needed some money, so I think like was just like, hey, I have this Rottweiler, it's gonna end up here if nobody wants it, and so we're like, we'll take it.
You guys are amazing.
Well, he was a little puppy. We didn't honestly. I think if we had known, we wouldn't have bought it.
Well,
Like,
we didn't know what we were signing up for because we thought, oh, it's just a puppy. But
yeah, well, he'll be great. Like we met him in a weird convenience store parking lot, and he came running out of the gangster's car and like licked my leg, and I'm like, I'll take him. Like, he's literally like just licking my leg. I'm like, this is the greatest dog. But he was the greatest dog because he wasn't the dog we wanted. We wanted the dog we could take to Thanksgiving and would be friendly and everyone would pet and he'd roll around and beg for treats and all this stuff. And we got the exact opposite dog. But the exact
who was
opposite,
amazing to us.
Yeah, but the exact opposite dog was literally, he was that dog that I just described, but only to us. Wow. So we had to learn that like having that dog in our little pack and building our strength as partners to deal with all the fucking problems.
He tested us.
Because he tested us like that, and to challenge us to say like, to not listen to everyone that said put him down, gave us this opportunity to learn how to be a team and to learn how to make it through really difficult things and how to find our own way. And I think that helped us for the lining up for Xavier. To how are we going to have a child and figure out our way to do it.
Beautiful.
And I think that was like, and literally like Prince got sick the year she got pregnant. Wow. And he spent the entire year like on his deathbed. Like literally while she was pregnant, but refused to go and held on. And we had the greatest year of our life because we thought, and the vet told us, if he comes back, he's done. So the next time he goes to the vet, he's done because we can't keep him alive. Yeah. And so every week we spent with this dog, we were expecting to be the last week with this dog. Yeah. So every walk you go on, every trip, every weekend, you're like, where are we going to go this weekend? We have to go somewhere super fucking cool because it could be Prince's last weekend. So you end up we spent 9 months with this dog thinking like, this is the last time I'm going to walk you. Like, how many times did we take him on a trip? And we'd just be bawling, being like, this is it.
Wow.
And it was like...
But it forced you to, you know, how that cheesy saying, it's like, live like it's your last day,
God,
right?
We lived the whole fucking year like it was his last day.
Yeah.
It was
every experience was just incredible. And when it came to the time where we had to let him go because... you know, the pain.
As she was getting ready to give birth,
he started
to let go.
Like was getting worse.
Was taking over
him. And so it came to a point where the vet was like, you know, when the suffering becomes more than his way of life, you have to let him
And we were going to bring him
to
Costa Rica because we had to have the baby in Costa Rica. So we took him to the vet and we're like, we need to get the papers signed.
And like, we can't.
And the vet was like, your dog's not going to make it on the plane. Like, there's no way that going through the altitude shift and all the anxiety and everything like that. Wow. And it was just, but we knew that he knew that we were going to get on the plane. And we would have taken him on the plane.
Okay.
Like...
yeah, but he, you know, like we said...
We would have went to another vet, but we knew, like, he was letting go.
Yeah.
Like... and it was because Xavier was coming.
Yeah, so it's like he was, like, making space.
So we made space.
You know what I mean?
Because it was...
Oh, my God.
But that's...
Dogs are the most amazing gift ever!
But they truly are because, you know, these animals, like, they want to teach you what it actually means, like the idea of unconditional love.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because no matter what's happening in your life, you know, they're there to love you because that's who they are. You
They're
know what
so
I mean?
unconditional.
They're so
Oh,
unconditional.
yeah.
There's
Oh my
no
God.
judgment. They're
Yeah.
so in the moment. They're so in the present,
Yeah.
you know? And they teach you that as well. But then also like with Prince, like he brought us and reconnected us with the earth. Like it was because of him we started, like something started to shift in our mind. Because back then we lived in a city in Toronto, like when we first had him, like that connection was completely severed. And we slowly, because we had a very troubled dog, we had to be outside twice a day for at least 2 hours.
Well, because it's so much energy.
And so we had to go into parks, we had to find nature, like everywhere we went, and something started to shift and connect. And that's the thing with dogs and animals. And like, you know, even for you, like having your little bear here, like, you know, you're gonna be forced to go on more beaches or more
Yeah,
nature,
right?
like even when you
Totally.
don't want to, when you're like,
Yes.
I'm tired, but like,
Yeah.
no, you're gonna go and reconnect
Yes.
with Mother Earth because your dog needs to go
It's going to
pee.
be pouring rain, and you're going to have
Yes.
to take the dog outside.
They're continually reminding you what's truly important.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And,
And
so
then-
they're little gurus. Like they're
And then in
such
the end,
beautiful-
the craziest thing I think about dogs is that they live for a fraction of the life we live. So the greatest lesson that they teach you in the end is impermanence.
Yeah.
Because they teach you about love unconditionally.
Yeah.
And then they teach you how to let go of that love.
Yeah.
And that's fucking astounding. That the last lesson every dog will teach you is the lesson of impermanence.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Yeah.
like
It is.
like what kind of guru is that? like it's just it's insane.
yeah.
It's actually
Wow.
insane.
Humans are so blessed.
Because they're anyway. But so I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
topic shift. You said it earlier, and I wanted to bring to that. And you had said you were talking about tapping through
Yeah.
because you are a master tapper.
I'm not-
And I'd like to talk about that if that's okay. To get me out of this like teary emotional
know,
state of
I
my
know.
dog and
Oh
like
my God.
I think it might be a nice.
well, maybe we can talk about first when you're talking about tapping. Are there any specific techniques?
Well, no.
With-
First, what is tapping? Let's start at the beginning because I
Okay.
think a lot of people it's a
Okay.
concept that like. And to me, before
Yeah.
I met you, like I had a friend in Toronto who was like a master tapper, but I was like, "What's this guy about?" And he like did a video course and all this stuff, and I was like, "Oh, it's kind of cool." But like then when we met you, and like
Yeah.
it started to gain
Yeah.
clarity and also importance. I think that
Yeah.
it's sort of it's in the fringe right now, and I
Yeah.
think you're doing a really great service bringing a technique like this forward in more towards like a mainstream consciousness.
Yeah.
So like, can you start on the 101 maybe?
Yes. Well, I think more than anything, there's a technique that goes with it, but it's giving humans permission to feel. Because for so long we've been taught and told that emotions are wrong and that if we're feeling uncomfortable, that's wrong. We should hide from it. We should put on a happy face when we feel down. When someone says, "How are you?" you should say, "I'm good." All of that is taking away our authenticity and our connection to truly being human together. And tapping is a tool that allows you to really feel and to process what's there. And when we can process what's there, then we get our energy and our life force back. So that's like really what it's doing. It's like giving us permission to process the unprocessed stuff. And for lineages, for thousands of years, we have so much suppressed stuff. So it's in our DNA. It's not just in our life. It's like passed down through family lines and all these patterns that are taking away the true authenticity and the realness of being human. And so this tool allows you to clear by tapping percussively on specific meridian points. So in Chinese medicine, if you've ever gone to get acupuncture, you're tapping on specific points. So in acupuncture, the points are connected to meridian lines or energy lines that allow prana or life force to move through the body. So if you have a trauma earlier on, or if you've picked up a pattern that's painful and it's not processed through love, then that creates a block in your energetic system to start with. And then if it's still not processed, it can turn into disease. And so much of our disease is just unprocessed emotion that never got the love it needed. And so what we're doing in tapping is we are both percussively tapping on the points while drawing the trauma and the pain to the surface. And so when we do that, we're talking out loud about what our emotions are, how we feel, and then we're soaking it in love love and compassion and empathy and forgiveness and these qualities that help us release it. And while we're doing that, we're percussively tapping. So all the trauma comes to the surface, you're tapping, you're bringing love to the pain, you're breathing it out. So when you're breathing, the life force from all of creation, the prana, is then flooding through the system, and you're clearing out all of that weight out of the body, and then you start to rewire the brain. So a lot of the time when something impactful happens in your life that's traumatic, the brain starts to see reality through fear around that topic. So your father left at a young age, and then you have a belief like, you can't trust men, they'll leave, right? And that's like deep-seated all the way back from childhood. And then later on in life, you start attracting men through that filter, or a woman, or whoever you're attracting. And because you're seeing reality in that way through the subconscious, because the subconscious is informing 80% of our reality, even when we don't know it. And so you start attracting that, and then you have the same issue with men leaving because that's what you attracted.
Right.
And so when you're doing tapping, you're basically going into those traumatic patterns from earlier life. So you go and do all your childhood healing, basically, where you've picked up those limiting thoughts, and you start to bring them love and empathy and compassion. And from that place, wisdom is born. And you're able to see what happened from a place of wisdom versus a place of fear. And then that shifts your perspective. And so in your brain, that rewires your brain to see things differently. They've shown on a scientific level. So what happens is you have these neural pathways in your brain, and they're shooting different systems back and forth. They actually show that the protein bonds that glue it in place melt away, and then the synapses in the brain opens up, and you can rewire your beliefs. So basically you're rewiring your brain through this process. You're reharmonizing the energetic field, and you're coming back into a deep space of harmony and love and compassion. Wow. And then that can change every area of your life. You can use it on anything that you're struggling with.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is there, if you're trying to let go of a specific trauma, is there specific areas of the body that you have to work with depending on the trauma it is?
So basically each point is connected to an organ in the body. And so in Chinese medicine, the organs hold different emotions. And so in the earlier days of tapping, they would do a lot of muscle testing. I don't know if you know, you put your arm out and they muscle test. Is it this organ? Is it this organ? And okay, you just tap on this one because it's this organ. But what they saw is actually emotions travel through the body. So 1 minute you're angry, and then the next minute you're sad, right? And so as you clear out the anger, the sadness arises. And so the emotions are constantly changing very quickly, especially when you tap, because you clear out emotions very quickly and you're clearing out all the layers. And so instead of just like tapping on one point for one issue, you just do a cycle of the points over and over and over again. You're tapping all the points connected to all the organs, and then you're clearing them all out at once.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So when you were tapping during your forgiveness and your closing ceremony with your relationship, which points exactly were you going through?
So I would do the whole cycle.
The whole cycle, like, and it's all in the
Yeah. So some of the methods don't use the hand points.
Okay.
And the truth is, like, I touch all the points, but the truth is, as long as I feel, if you're really bringing deep love and empathy to your fear, you're going to start melting it out of the system, because the love really helps you let it go. The tapping helps you clear it more quickly, because the somatic body is holding onto memory and things like that. So as you're clearing it out, and then oftentimes you might be tapping on one topic. And so, like, for example, with letting go of my relationship, many taps on that. But one of the big things that came through the many taps was recognizing that I'm whole without the relationship.
Yeah.
And like tapping on all of my fear of aloneness, all the things that were coming up around letting it go. And ultimately it was always taking me back to like, I am whole exactly where I am at.
So you're a master tapper, one might say. But
I don't know what a master tapper is.
I don't know, like someone who's very knowledgeable and experienced in the art of tapping.
Definitely.
Right?
I mean, very knowledgeable and experienced, for sure.
But for somebody that's like not, would they come to you and would you tap on them, or would you teach them where to tap? What's the process that someone would approach this methodology with?
Yeah, so basically the beautiful thing, and I actually teach coaches to tap, and then they take on clients. So I have a school that teaches and certifies solidifies. And one of the beautiful things about it is when you have someone come to you, they're tapping on themselves and you're leading them. And so you're showing them where to tap, and then they're repeating after you. So you're saying, even though I have fear of letting this relationship go, for example, I love and deeply accept myself. And you're telling them what to say, and they're tapping and following along. And then the beautiful thing is there's a mirroring that happens because you're tapping on your body, they're tapping on their body. As a practitioner, you start healing as well.
Oh, wow.
So anything that you have unresolved around whatever you're helping them with, you start resolving as well.
Wow.
It's like quantum leaps. And so often after a session, you have more wisdom, you feel more energized.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's really beautiful because, you know, so many of the healing modalities, you give so much love and and sometimes it can be draining, you know, massage therapists or energy healers sometimes feel tired at the end of a session because they've given so much of their love and their life force. But because you're doing it while they're doing it, you're clearing yourself.
That's really cool.
It's, really cool.
Wow. So you're teaching people how to become coaches of tapping.
Yeah.
How does that, like, how long does that take to learn and to understand that wisdom?
Yeah. So I take people through a 6-month program, and over those 6 months, we do everything from the basics all the way into like the deeper layers of really holding people through trauma. Because you can do other programs out there that might be like a 7-week program. You can learn the basics, like this is where you tap and this is what you say. But because the work is really about, like, when you get deep in it, it's about healing trauma. Like there's like sexual abuse, there's addictive patterns, there's so much that can come up in a session with someone because you're asking them to look at their unprocessed emotion. So we made the program longer so that we could really help with a lot of these topics, you know, suicidal thoughts, like how do you hold someone through something like that, right? And so a lot of the teachings will help you go deeper into the practice as well. And then at the end of the program, we do a whole training on building your business as a tapping coach as well. And we help them go out into the world and start booking clients.
And you do this online?
Yeah, we do it all online. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how could somebody sign up for something like that if this was a calling for them?
Yeah, so I guess you could go to my website, and we usually launch the program once a year.
Okay.
There's other programs that we do as well if you're just like dipping your toe in and you want to do some own personal healing work and things like that. And our next one is going to be in September next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you still tap for for clients, like, or do you just teach the art of tapping?
The art of tapping.
The art of tapping. You know, for a long time when I was building my digital business, I really I pulled back and I just started teaching all the students how to do it. And then only in the last probably 6 to 8 months, I started taking on clients again. And I only take like a small, 3 or 4 clients a month because I really want to create deep containers with them so that we can really travel together. And that's been really fulfilling to re-enter into the craft in that way because it's been a lot of building the business and empowering others to go out and share it. And now I take on just a few clients.
How do you balance building the business with maintaining the spiritual grounding of the intention of what you're doing?
That's the whole thing, you know. That's why I lost it for a while, because it became about the business.
Right.
And I actually started to lose my connection to the soul of while I was doing it. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It became so much for a few years because I had investment from investors that, you know, you want to meet their needs and things like that. So it becomes a pressure to make a certain amount of money. And then all of a sudden you're a business person and no longer a healer.
Tell us about it. It's crazy.
It's always hard to find
it's such a strange, nuanced balance.
Yeah.
Of trying to do right by the business and knowing the better the business does, the more impact and the more impact you can give to people. Yet at the same time holding the space for the intention of why you're doing it in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're not they're conducive, but I don't think they're naturally a fit, the business and the practice. So we're always you feeling the scales and adjusting where your energy goes and trying our best to nurture and covet the intention of
but it's
why.
always it's that feeling of when you become aware that you're losing it, and it's how do I bring it back? So how did you come back to that source?
So I think one of the things that was that I notice really shift. Actually, when I separated from my relationship, I had a big life review. And I was like, what's really important to me? And I was like, the business was overwhelming me. And I was like, I've lost connection to the soul of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I decided to slow a lot of things down. And I shifted a lot of my business model, actually. I was like, I'm going to do less. I'm going to do the things that I do really well, because I was trying to do way too many things.
Oh, yes.
And then that space gave me time. Then I had spaciousness in my being. Whew. And then I was able to reconnect to my own spirit. And then from reconnecting to my own spirit, now there's an overflow of really wanting to like work on the level of the human again.
That's cool.
And I actually I saw a massive shift in the business as well, in a really good way, because like now I was connected to my mission again, and the energy of what I was sharing. Like there was a point where I even had like copywriters writing my content, and then I was like, what am I doing? Like I need to keep my voice. Like my voice is like the most important part of the business. It's the transmission of my energy. If I am sacrificing my voice so that I can help build a funnel or direct a project in marketing, like I've got my priorities incorrect.
That's so That's so astounding. Well, we've been there.
Yeah.
We've been there, and it's an interesting thing to hear it said back to us, like in kind of like a mirror, because it's so easy.
It's so easy to lose it.
Well, and
to
what's
get lost
so
in
fucking
that.
fascinating is that when you come back, whenever we've lost ourselves, and we've lost ourselves many times, and you come back to source, you come back to soul, you come back to the reason you're doing it and simplify, you're right. The business then goes back to the growth it used to be at. You're like, oh, because that's what matters. Like
and that's what people feel that as well.
Yeah, people can feel it on the other side, right?
Yeah.
People can see when you're just selling and selling and selling and selling, and then it's like, where is that truth? Where is that soul? Like that's a beautiful way you put that, like the soul of the offering of your purpose of your service.
Yes.
And people can feel it 100%. So, and for us too, like I think what you say about simplicity, I think that's a huge part about like removing a lot, because so many times, especially when you're growing your business, so many opportunities come. Oh, you should do this. Oh, you should do this. Oh, you should start this. Or, and everyone's kind of coming at you. And you're like, oh, you're right. That's a great idea. That's a good idea. Yeah, that totally will help us boost our business. And it starts to build. And then the next thing you know, you're like, your full day is filled with 100 tasks for things that aren't, maybe they're helping it grow, but what are they taking from you? When you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's something we constantly had to find ourselves and we come back and simplify. And we still do.
It's an ebb and flow constantly.
Yeah. And it's for us, it's been a lot of like, wow, we spent 10 hours on the computer today. I didn't have time to do my yoga practice today. What kind of yoga teacher am I to guide people through a practice when I can't even get on the mat because I'm too busy worrying about whatever, a marketing thing, like you're saying, some kind of campaign. It's like there's such a shift in priorities that have to happen.
It's weird, and it seems like in the new age of American marketing funnels, which we all find ourselves in the spiritual community, because everyone's got an identity and a thing to sell. That you see everyone doing it, and so there's this compulsion, like to be that, I need to quantify what I would like my life to be, and I have to do the thing that they say I have to do. And as soon as you start to shift what you feel you have to do something you feel that you need to do in order to succeed in what you want to do, you're taking yourself away from the desire and the passion and the place where you serve best, which is in what you feel you want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And
the
so
deep desire.
And I think that it's so noisy. And I see so many people in Nasara and in Tulum and probably in Bali and on all these places that are so like laser focused on being something that they don't necessarily, they might not have wanted to start to be, but now they think to pay my rent and to do this and to be successful and to get enough followers and to all the things and to have the, like all the stuff that's where they need to go play in that playground. And it's like, but the truth is happiness and joy and purpose and all of the things that really fill us up and make us better beings in the spiritual community is just in doing you.
Yes.
And so it's a funny thing, and we get caught in it so much. Like it's like I think 2023 will be a year of simplicity for us, because it's just
Beautiful.
like we need to come back to source.
And I
'cause,
think for
like,
us as well, especially when you add a child into the mix and you have a family now and you have to find that balance between even your business, your self-growth, but then also time with your son and giving him,
he's a good reminder. the
you know,
little
he's a
guru.
great reminder, because there's also moments where like, wow, like I haven't seen my child all day. Like, what am I kind of, you know what I mean? Like there's
Yes.
those moments and you're like, how is that more important than my quality time with my child?
Yeah.
So again, it's another shift. Constantly you're having to like, okay, that's not going to take priority anymore, you know?
But I mean, that's the beauty of growth, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like the falling
And coming back up.
and then getting back up and being like, what happened there?
Yeah.
And then attuning and
Yeah.
trying to run again
Yeah.
and figure, you know, and this constantly like allowing ourselves the freedom to fail, so that when we fail, as long as we fail consciously, maybe we won't fail the same way too many times, you know?
Yeah.
And I think like things like Prince when we had him, or Xavier, or whatever it might be, like they're really beautiful reminders for like, you know, when you fail to like, oh yeah, no, my values aren't like this, you know?
Yeah, they invite us back into our humanness. I think with all of this, I actually think a lot of this consciousness of like do, create, manifest, have, own, possess, it comes from this conquering mentality, which I think has taken over a lot of the world, like conquering the new land, right? And I think that can remove us from just the pure gift of being human.
Yes.
And it's like we're so obsessed with like having more, creating more, doing more, manifesting more, that we actually forget that we already have the gift. We've already won. We're human. We're living on this amazing planet.
yeah.
We're having family. We're having community. We're having connection. And just this conquering all the time can take us away from actually what brings so much soul satisfaction, which is just being human.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm calling in simplicity as well,
Yeah.
and just the humanness, because that's where the real joy is.
Yeah. Returning back to that
Yeah.
humanness as well. You know, for us, like I feel like, especially like we're talking about 2023 and the new year and everything, it's for us, it's also finding community. That's been another big part of our life. It's like connection, like the real connection with other beings, and like
And prioritizing it.
prioritizing.
And I think
it.
that's why, like, we birthed the podcast, right? Like, because all of a sudden, instead of spending 2 hours doing emails or whatever other nonsensical thing we could be doing with our business, we're like, oh, fuck that. I haven't looked at my email account in like 2 months, it feels like. It's crazy. Because I take that 2 hours and I'd sit here and we'll have a beautiful, real conversation. And hopefully someone might take something out of it. And if they don't, that's cool, because I take so much from this.
Oh
with
my
you,
God, it's so
right?
good.
Like, that's the bonus. If you guys watching this, like, there's value in this for you, awesome. But I'll tell you this, like, it's a little bit selfish, but the 2 hours I'm spending here with you, learning from your wisdom and your experience, is better than any email I could fucking write. Like, straight up, right?
And having a container like this really invites the depth as well, you know, because sometimes you meet someone and you can talk on the surface, but it's like, okay, you sit down here with these microphones. It's like, it's time to go deep.
Yeah.
And I can feel that. I've been watching all of your podcasts, and it's that's what you're inviting into the space: real human connection, real depth, real honesty, authenticity. It's really beautiful.
Trying. I mean, it's funny because as soon as you set up the lights and you got the mics and the things and the stuff, it's like the mental battle for everyone. And like, how do I now embody authenticity when everything in the world and all these signals around us are being like, you must be something now. So I think that's the untalked about challenge of a podcast, because I think so many people have these podcasts and it's like, I have to play the role of an interviewer. So what would an interviewer say? And nod and like, and then you're exact opposite of your authentic self. And I see so many podcasts and like, think about it. Like people are playing a role. Like their ego is telling them, I must be this because I'm a host, or I must be this because I'm a guest. But like, I think what we're really trying to do, and that's why we didn't tell you we've started. When
I
we
love
started,
that.
was
Love
like,
that.
Have
what
a
we're just trying to do
conversation.
is be like, how do we do this, but do this without all
There's
that?
no introduction like, welcome to the Beautiful podcast.
Right? Like totally.
We are here today
Yeah.
with Jennifer.
Yeah,
It's like-
exactly.
so it's a funny thing
love
because it's
that.
like that identity, that thing that like we all think we have to be when the camera turns on. Like, how do you throw that away?
Yeah.
Like, how do you throw
And
that?
also create a space for people to tune in and watch and listen and know that like this is what it is. You know what I mean? This is us. We're being completely real. Like there's no like cameras off. Okay, now we're gonna like totally act differently. It's like
and invite you to be you.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, like you said,
you are like, we might as well just go for dinner. We'll continue this conversation the exact same way.
Oh my God, I'm having deja vu right now. It's so wild. Yeah,
interesting. Deja vu's are
both of you saying
sign.
that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a sign that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
I love it.
Wow.
Wow. Well, so my other question, just for people watching and listening, outside of your certifications that you offer for people, you know, with the online courses, is there other places people can just find tapping experiences from you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Every 2 weeks we do a free live tapping experience. And it's a 90-minute session, and there's an amazing community that gathers together online, and we all tap and process, and everyone's videos are on, and we're all crying and breaking down together, and then having these amazing epiphanies. So that happens every 2 weeks. That's beautiful for the community.
Where's that at?
If you go to my website, it's called the Live Tapping Experience.
Okay.
Yeah. And then occasionally wherever I travel, if there's a place, I'll set up and do local workshops and things like that as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you're doing something in January in Tulum. Aren't you doing an event?
Oh yeah, there's an event coming up called the Zen Experience.
Right.
Yep. So so that's going to be a fun event. They've got some amazing speakers. Deepak's coming.
Is that with Meilan?
Yeah, Meilan, a friend of ours.
Oh,
Meilan
yes,
is
of
coming,
course.
and she's doing sound healing. She's amazing. You have to meet her.
Yeah, you gotta meet her.
too.
She's so. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I so want to meet her.
You guys will like. Oh my
She's
God.
she's an incredible channeler of divinity and through her music.
Just a beautiful.
And a
light.
beautiful person.
And a
Her
beautiful
and her
person.
partner James, they're both like beautiful human
Wow.
beings. So
I'm so looking forward to meeting them. I've been wanting to meet them for a long time.
Amazing.
So
Yeah.
what an amazing opportunity. Yeah, I mean, her transmission of light is so powerful and
crazy,
beautiful.
hey?
Wow.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah,
It's
you
just
guys
a-
interviewed her.
Yeah, it was
yeah, we
our
had
first
a podcast.
episode actually.
Yeah, and we
was
did
with her.
we did also like a yoga class with her as well. She did the healing, and then I led like a very gentle yoga class, and that was a really beautiful experience too.
And we swam in Barton Springs a
We
lot.
swam in Barton Springs in Austin.
The springs in Austin.
Beautiful. Oh, you did it live in person with people, and she did the music?
No,
or?
we recorded it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's on the
fabulous.
YouTube channel.
It's just we just posted. We did two. We posted one on our YouTube channel and one on hers, just to kind of give something else.
Meilan's
Beautiful
amazing.
combination.
Yeah,
there.
like a mix of sound healing with very gentle yoga and movement. So it's a nice balance. You know.
You guys are so generous with what you share with the community. I'm just blown
Oh my God.
away.
Thank
I have not seen anyone that is as generous as both
No,
of you.
come on.
No, truly.
No, come on.
Like, but it's a representation of who you are as human beings as well, because you are just so generous with your love, and I think that's why everyone that comes on can relax into their authenticity, because you're just so loving and so present.
Oh my God.
You make it so easy.
No,
So,
you make
yeah.
it easy.
Yeah.
That's like it's just this. No, you're being giving us way too much credit on this one.
Yeah.
I say when I'm in your presence, everything is so much lighter. Like, and I say it all the
Yeah,
time.
all
I'm
the
like,
time he says it. Yeah.
have been very excited
Yeah.
about this podcast.
Oh,
coming
well,
out
we
this time.
amplify the field together.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go.
exactly.
That's a good way to
Yeah.
think about it. I like that. I
Exactly.
like that. Cool.
Amazing.
All right. Well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jen, for this
Yeah.
amazing
Thank you, Jen.
Love you
experience
guys.
with
Love
you.
you too.
Thank
God.
you so much.
too.
I feel so honored.
Oh my God. So do
You know,
we. Come
before
on
I
now.
even met you guys, I was following your work for many years. And then I remember we were walking on the beach in Costa Rica with Ganar at the
Yeah.
time. And I was like, oh, that's the beautiful people. And Ganar was like, oh, I know those guys. They're been into Thrive. And he was like, we should go back. I'm like, oh, really? I was like, so nervous. We're going to go talk to them.
Oh my
And then we
goodness.
like sat down with you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we watched the sunset
The
together.
first time we met you, we sat for 4 hours, I think, and just
Yeah.
watched the sunset and the stars came out. We all lied back on the beach and we're like,
We're like,
we
should
just-
we get dinner?
yeah, it was
Yeah,
an amazing
yeah,
night, actually.
yeah,
it was just like
was.
magic.
It was
Yeah.
like such a dream come true. So
Oh my goodness.
I'm just so happy to be
was-
friends with both of
Yeah,
you.
Likewise,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Likewise.
That was such a special night, though.
was.
It's
It
like, how often does
was.
that happen? You run into someone on the beach, and then you end up sitting down to watch the sunset, and then you throw some blankets down, you watch the moon come out, the stars are there, you just hang out for the whole night. Like, it
Yeah.
was fucking
Yeah.
amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's magic.
Really
We're carrying it
magic.
forward. That's
Yeah,
what this
we
is.
are.
Beautiful.
Carrying that energy
Here we
forward.
are. Beautiful.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, amazing, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, loves.
Oh, goodness. All right.
Awesome.
That's a wrap.